Dia Khair. Welcome to the latest podcast from the New Order of Druids. This podcast is the last in our series about the Celtic year. In this episode, we will be talking about Samhain. The earliest record we have of the festival of Samhain in the Celtic world comes from the Caligny calendar, a native Celtic lunar calendar inscribed on bronze tablets and discovered in eastern France 100 years ago. The calendar dated through epigraphic evidence to the 1st century CE, is written in the Latin alphabet and was found in conjunction with a Roman-style statue. But the language used is Gaulish, and the dating system itself bears little resemblance to the Roman models, implying that it represents the survival of an indigenous tradition maintained by native clergy. The calendar's years consist of 12 regularly reoccurring months that fall naturally in two groups, one headed by the month that is labeled Samhain and the other by the month Giamon, and that the names of these two months are clearly related to the terms Samos or summer and Gamos or winter. In Irish they would be Saura, meaning summer, and Givre, meaning winter. What does the name of the festival mean? Here again we run into controversy. The traditional interpretation, first put forward in the medieval glossaries and still held by native speakers, is that it means summer's end, being a combination of Sau, or summer, and Fuin, which means ending or concealment. This is obviously a folk etymology, since we know that the earliest form of the word Samoni had a different structure. But its importance to the living tradition should make us wary of dismissing it too lightly. What should be kept in mind is that in the context of the rituals of the Celtic year, Samhain is strongly identified with the end or concealment of summer, the light half of the year. In the modern Gaelic languages, the festival is called Samhain in Irish, Samhain in Scottish Gaelic. The night on which it begins, or Ich Auna in Irish, is the primary focus of the celebration. The Brythonic languages call the feast by a name meaning first of winter, borrowing the Latin term calenda, which designates the first day of a month. But the beliefs and practices associated with it are consistent with what we find in the Gaelic countries and will help us discover a pan-Celtic theology of Samhain. The rituals surrounding Samhain and Beltane are closely related to each other and make it clear that the two festivals are linked, but also that they deal with the opposite energies within the unfolding of the year. What is explicit and active in one is implicit and dormant in the other, and vice versa. This is often expressed in the notion that what disappears in our world at once becomes present in the other world, and it has even been suggested on this basis that Samhain's summary name was originally intended to designate the beginning of the other world summer. Whether this is plausible or not, it remains certain that while Samhain began one kind of yearly cycle, Beltane began another, and both would be construed as kind of a new year. In both cases, sacred fires were extinguished and relit, though this happens at sunset on Samhain and at dawn on Beltane. Beltane was the time of opening and expansion, Samhain a time of gathering in and shutting. And for herd owners like the Celts, this was expressed with particular vividness by the release of cattle into upland pastures on Beltane and their return to the safety of the byres on Samhain. On Samhain, the moment of the year's death, this world and the other world become equivalent to each other. Classificatory boundaries are removed from all categories. No boundaries exist between the dead and the living, so both can authentically come together in one place to share a ritual feast. Individual Celtic communities have preserved a wealth of different customs related to the way this feast was actually celebrated. One can still discern some distorted elements of them in modern urban practices such as Halloween parties and trick-or-treating. Most of the customs, however, fall into two broad patterns. According to the first pattern, certain amount of food is set aside for the exclusive consumption of the dead. The dead were believed to be present in invisible entities. Doors and windows were left unlocked to facilitate their coming into the house. In some cases, a specific food, usually cakes, was made solely for the dead. In others, a portion of the same food that the living would eat was set aside for them. The other pattern of Samhain custom encourages the recycling of the offered food into the community, thus strengthening the social bonds. While the dead were brought closer to the living by the formal sharing of food, other offerings had to be made to the land spirits to reward them for their cooperation during the harvest period, and to replenish their creative energy as they prepared to enter into a new cycle. With Samhain, the period of truce that began in Lunasa was officially ended, and the fruits of the soil, especially wild crops, could no longer be harvested with impunity. Renewing social links with the dead and feeding the land spirits were both ritual means of ensuring a safe future. The ritual of letting go. Ask yourself the following and write a list for each. What old habits, patterns, and ways of being no longer serve you and your relationships? What things from the past adversely affect your family or your community's well-being and would be best forgiven and forgotten? What does our planet need less of to make it more healthy? Choose one item from each list that you genuinely wish to release. Now take a piece of yarn or string or cord and make 3 knots in it, one for each issue. As you make each knot, visualize each situation clearly and imagine every aspect of being firmly bound into the knot. Bury the knotted cord where the sun, wind, and rain cannot touch it, and let it rot away. I wanted to end this podcast with a poem called The Fairy Ride by Ella Young. Forget the hearth, forget the roof, set the wheel aside. Leave your weaving, warp and woof, steal out to us the Samhain tide. Steal out to us our tossing hair, sets sun and moon and stars aflare. The racing winds are hounds beside, the cloud-manned horses that we ride. Come ride with us, have heart to dare, the plunging steed, the steeps of air, the swirling high, tumultuous flight, the airy hoofs, the Samhain night.